this episode, we're going to hear from Ian James from the NEOM McLaren Formula E team, and we're also joined by Marianne Lee and Greg Young from Trend Micro. And now you're going to hear about all things to do with innovation, both from a company point of view and from an individual point of view. Marianne, Greg and Ian, thank you all for joining us here today. Innovation is at the heart of what both Trend Micro and the NEOM McLaren Formula E team do on a daily basis. How does innovation define a company?
I think from my perspective, innovation is something that needs to be woven into the very fabric of any company, any organisation, if it wants to be successful. It needs to be a real pillar of what that company stands for and what it's trying to achieve. If you're not innovating, if you're not progressing, if you're not improving, you're not just standing still, you're actually going backwards.
Yeah, I think it is part and indistinguishable. You can't subtract it or add it to an organization. It's got to be, your organization is that innovation, reflects it. It can't be just for one project. It can't be, an instruction to be more innovative, or else it has to be enabled and embraced, and people trust that they can do that without fear.
And I think the other way to look at innovation as well is, what's the company's definition of innovation? Some companies lean more on it being creative. And I know, for example, for us, when we first started as a company back in the 80s, creativity was actually one of the core values. But in about 2009, it changed to innovation, because there's a shortfall with creativity. You can be really creative, but it doesn't mean you're actually having an impact. Whereas with innovation, I feel there's an extra edge to the creativity. You're trying to solve something. You're not just being weirdly, creative or different. So I think that's really important as well in that definition piece. It's the company's view of what innovation is too.
So in that sense, it sort of added more structure, I suppose, to the creativity. So innovation is structured creativity in that way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you need to get the right people on board. I think in innovative culture, you kind of need people who actually thrive in chaos. But as you get bigger, you have to get organized with all your, resources and your people. So, hierarchies, org charts, all of that start to become more important. But then there are ways to make things still agile. So I think you've also got to be innovative in how you operate. So I think we always think of innovation as in the product, whether it's the car, whether it's the cybersecurity solution, but innovation also comes in other forms as well. And I think that's the challenge for companies who really want to stay in that innovation space, is actually how do you stay innovative in all aspects of how you operate.
Yeah, and I think it's again a combination of experience that's there within the team, along with some maybe fresh new thinking about how to approach what essentially is a problem, but it's a problem that your competitors have as well. So if you do a better job at solving those problems, of actually, again, being innovative in the way that you approach them, then you'll actually get a competitive advantage and ultimately win on track. So it's a simple formula to say it. It's more difficult to put it into practice, I think.
Yeah, we face competitors as well, except our customers can sense if we're not innovative. They can almost, sense within the first few minutes through the door as we talk to them. So that's, we have the competition to deal with, we have adversaries, but we also have our customers as well.
So I think it's a fascinating problem, but what I find also fascinating is the way that you can sort of draw parallels. And not a lot of people would naturally think that the world of cybersecurity has a huge amount in common with motorsport, but actually through the work that we've done together through the partnership, these sort of parallels, these similarities come up time and time again.
We've heard you all speak so passionately about innovation, and not just from an organizational point of view, but from an individual point of view as well. And it's so obvious that it's at the core and the heart of what both companies do. But how do we strive to always ensure that we keep that culture of innovation going, both from an organizational point of view, but also from an individual point of view?
One of the key things is never to rest on your laurels, and ensuring that there's a culture within the organisation, but also on an individual level, of continuous improvement. It's ensuring that there's always something that you can do in every aspect. And one of the most powerful ways that we found of doing that, because of the cyclical nature of motorsport, is ensuring that everybody understands their role within the team. I think traditionally we've looked towards the drivers as being the superstars, the engineers as being also superstars within the factory, the mechanics, the operational team that are out at track. And you often forget about the people back home in HR and finance and the other areas, which without whom the whole thing would fall apart anyway. So you can innovate in these areas as well. And what we found recently, actually through some of the regulatory changes that we've had, the introduction of the cost cap, for example, is we've been able to change these areas into performance differentiators as well. And in doing that, actually then educate the rest of the business to the importance of that. And now we've got a situation whereby the innovation, when we're talking about solutions to problems, for example, aren't just being looked at through the eyes of the engineers or the drivers or the mechanics. We bring a whole team together that look at each and every aspect of it. And I think in doing that, you keep it fresh, but you also accelerate that level and speed of innovation as well.
You're right in that, we talk a lot about people coming to the table with a function or a purpose, right? Which is, I call the standard kind of job description. But it's all the stuff that's done outside of the job description that's actually more important. I think once, someone said to me that, if you look at a CEO, what's the job description of a CEO? But just to basically manage the business. So their job description changes every day, and everyone needs to kind of almost approach their work like that. There's this new word, there's new word kind of coming around in our company, and it's kind of based on the organization, not of hierarchy, but holacracy, which is what we call the radial web. And in the radial web, there are 3 key roles: the builder, the teacher, and the bridge. So it doesn't matter if you're in engineering or if you're in finance or in tech, it's in that solution, in that mission. What's your key purpose? Are you there to connect people, be the bridge? Are you there to bring expertise, to be the teacher? Or are you there to actually build something new? So, and I like that because it means that it doesn't matter where you sit in an org chart. Again, it's actually in that mission. What is your purpose and what are you going to do? And it really opens things up because all of a sudden it isn't just about, it's an engineering problem or it's a compliance problem or it's a logistics problem or, whatever it is. It's our company's mission, and who are we going to get the right people to actually solve that mission,
It's holacracy.
Holacracy.
I'm going to remember.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
It's a new one for me, at least. I've learned something today, which is great.
Put that on
Fancy
your wall
word.
back at the
Yeah.
office.
Yeah, exactly.
See what the team does.
Sure.
You're going to have to get your crystal ball out for this next question. But as we look into the future, where do you think the next innovation is going to occur, both in trend and in NEOM McLaren Formula E?
It's a fascinating question. I think something that's been talked about for a long time but never actually brought to fruition, and I think will come up in the near future, is this way of embedding the fans into the sport itself. So almost through racing against your favorite driver in real time. So while you're sat at home on your VR machine or whatever it might be, that for me is going to be an absolute game changer. It's going to bring the people from their living rooms into the race itself. And I can't wait for that to come to fruition.
And together we'll do it securely, maybe.
I think that's going to be crucially important. I really do.
Entertaining and secure. Wow, what a concept. Yeah, I think it's for us, much like you've talked about reaching out to the fans to, give them more of what they want. I think it's for us, it's reaching out to our customers more in terms of getting out into their environment. And once we know what their problems are, that really, ignites new innovation. Then it's not just sort of what we think people will want. It's so clear what they want, and then we can take it beyond that. The greatest advance, I think, is going to be in areas that are non-traditional for us. It's going to be the big innovation. So looking out and saying, well, boards of directors, here's a picture of the likelihood and the impact that's going to happen if these attacks happen, and be able to predict that with some good certainty based on the data within the customer. That is going to take us into new areas and help organizations sort of predict better what's going to happen. So that's where we're excited, that sort of quantifying risk in much more dollar terms and in terms of like how many times it's going to happen.
I think you're right. I think that proactive security piece is really a big topic, isn't it? I think the security industry or the cybersecurity industry has been very reactive, for as long as it's been there. And I think we're only skimming the surface really of what proactive security looks like. So even if you were to ask anyone today to define proactive security, I think we'd be limiting ourselves actually in terms of what it is. And I liked your description of immersive, because that's what it really picked up, is that immersive experience. And I think that could definitely cross over into this proactive security piece as well, as how do we make security more immersive as an experience for people who are administrating it, who are relying on it, etc., and things like that. So I definitely think that the tech, in a way, I feel like the ideas are there. The tech needs just to catch up and enable it. You know, I think we're impatient for the tech. Yeah.
You want that immersive experience, but you want it to be safe at the end of the day.
Yeah.
That's absolutely crucial.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much. I've truly enjoyed listening to this conversation. When we think about innovation, it is not just about companies, it is about the people who are in these companies. So to hear from a human resources point of view, to hear from a cybersecurity company point of view, and also to hear from a motorsports point of view, I think it's going to give those who are listening an awful lot to think about and hopefully input into their organizations. So thank you.